And it's scrolling. It says we're live. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Hello, 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 everyone. It is Wednesday night. Happy Wednesday evening to you all. You are watching Coach Michelle Jackson and Out of My Shell, and I am here for part two. Count 'em, uno, dos, with therapist Erinn Boone. Erinn was such a hit the last time. That we had so many other things we wanted to talk about based on the interaction with the audience, and we didn't go over some questions, but we're really going to have, this is not an impromptu talk because we planned it, but the questions will be led by you guys, and anything we feel that is kind of important, you guys will lead and guide the conversation tonight. So before we dive in, welcome, welcome, welcome back, Erinn. I'm so happy to have you here. You were phenomenal last month, and so
You always hype me up so much.
here
I
she
never
goes.
know how to
How to receive
receive
it.
it.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Maybe we need to talk about tonight. Maybe we need to discuss tonight how to receive a compliment. How about that?
Very good.
So, Erinn, welcome back. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank
Thank you so much
you.
for agreeing to come back. And I'm looking down at my phone and trying to make sure that I'm not missing any Facebook people out here commenting, because sometimes if they don't give StreamYard permissions, we won't see them in the comments. So I want to make sure that we're seeing them in the comments, and all is good, all is well. Okay, so Erinn, um, share with the audience whatever you'd like to share at this point. It's Wednesday. How was your day? How about we start there? How was
Um,
the therapist's day? Mm.
Such an interesting day to ask that because on any other day, I probably could give you more of a canned response.
Mm-hmm.
But today has been a little bit more hectic. And
Okay.
so it's always interesting when you have to help to either avert a crisis or kind of just deal with things as they come to you. So no 2 days are alike, but
Mm-hmm.
this day has been particularly long. I had a very hectic morning. I actually ended up having to reschedule a client, and they were very accommodating and very understanding. But yeah, it's definitely been an interesting, long day.
So the long and the short of it is, therapists are people too. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the funny thing about therapy is as much as I enjoy it, you are receiving everyone's energy, right? So the whole
Mm-hmm.
goal is to be able to make sure that our clients feel like they have the tools that they need to cope and
Mm-hmm.
continue going on day after day, even if it's minute by minute. But what tends to happen is my session is 1 hour with you, but if I
Mm-hmm.
have 10 clients scheduled in the day, that's actually 10 hours back to back of receiving people's energy, of being able to, compartmentalize emotions and
Oh.
all of those types of things. So at the end of the day, I really enjoy the work, but I'm also a mute by the time the day is over with. I don't want to talk. I don't want to go out. I just want to kind of sit and regroup and reflect. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually am very intentional about being thankful that I am able to help to coach and guide and support people through the day, that people entrust me in that way to be able to do those things because people's lives are really important. And
Yeah.
they may not be important to a perfect stranger, but
Right.
knowing what people are going through really makes the difference in how we interact with them. And so I always feel so privileged and honored that my clients continue to work with me, refer me, request. And so I don't take that lightly. But yes, at the end of the day, you can be quite emotionally drained and exhausted because therapists are people too. So.
Yeah.
I
So
appreciate you asking about my day. Thank you. That rarely happens.
yeah. I mean, I think I'm not surprised that you would say that that rarely happens, especially as it pertains to you being a therapist, because people are so used to you being in the position of authority that gives and coaches and, gives advice and listens and all this stuff. So we take for granted often you have stuff going on too. And just as you shared, if you have 10 clients in a day, that's 10 hours that you've been giving freely of yourself. So you can feel depleted. And you do need someone to say, hey, thank you.
Yeah.
I see you. How are you? So, but it doesn't surprise me that that is not common because even with, human to human, even if it's not a therapist, this society has become so self absorbed. And it is shocking, like oh my gosh, the speed to which the world has changed has been surprising me and not surprising me at the same time because of my spiritual walk. Okay, we know some things are going to happen in the earth because of the
Hmm.
Bible, but in addition to that, just being a person and seeing how everyone is self-absorbed. Not everyone, that's too much of a blanket statement. Many people are extremely self-absorbed, and if they do ask you how you're doing, before you even answer the question, they're responding. They're telling you something else about their day. Hey, Erin, how are you? And you're like, I was, yeah, girl, because I was just thinking such and such. And it's like, um,
Very true.
hello, hello. You just asked me a question, but you're picking up. So I get it. People are very self-centered, and I hate saying that, but it's a little disheartening. So I'm not going to go off on a tangent.
Well, we won't. But if I can piggyback on
Please,
what you
please.
just said, so even if I were to reframe that just a little bit,
Mhm.
self-centered does not have to necessarily be a negative thing, right?
Okay.
Because we have to be focused, we have to be aware.
Hmm.
Everyone, it kind of self-care is that new buzzword, right? So it's
Yes.
hard to implement self-care without being focused on yourself. But I do
Hmm.
think that, to your point, it is a fine line. I say that most people are self-serving because
Hmm.
obviously you're going to do things based off of if you want to do them, are you willing to do them, and what am I going to get out of this, right?
Yes.
So even something as simple as a phone call, to your point, if I call you, Michelle, I may be calling you to see how you're doing, but somewhere along in that conversation, I'm going to be able to unload on you as well. So I
Yeah.
think that it really does depend on your outlook. And I tell people all the time, you can use your powers for good and not evil. You can be self-serving, but then at the same time, how much of that self-serving nature is geared toward the needs of others? If you're
Hmm.
going to, maybe you do things for others because you feel good about doing things for others,
Yeah.
that can be self-serving to a degree. So
Hmm.
it all really depends on what your intent is behind it. But I agree. And so in that vein, Michelle, how was your day?
Thank you for asking. I haven't been working at the 9ish to 5ish since last month, but the daughter did have an injury, so I had a couple of weeks that I was kind of on standby and traveling. Now I'm settled, literally settled. I think she's in a good place and a good space physically. So I am managing my time to the best of my ability with not working. And I say it that way because, as you know, because you stepped off of the ledge too and did something different,
Mhm.
when you get all of your hours, as much as we sit and we say, oh my gosh, I wish I had more time to focus on my gifts and focus on this. And, I have to give myself here at this job. And then I'm a mother and I'm a wife and I'm this and I'm that and all these titles. And you say that, and we use that sometimes as a crutch. It's our excuse to not step out, right? And then when we
Mhm.
do, it's like, okay, so what am I supposed to be doing again? I have all these hours now. The time belongs to me. So now
Mhm.
I need to manage and make sure that I have a schedule for my purpose, that I've literally scheduled my purpose
Absolutely.
and be
Absolutely.
strategic about it. So shifting that, and even with last night, I think it was yesterday, I worked, on my purpose driven work, and I'm putting some strategies in place and all these things. And I'm about to do this other thing that no one knows about except two people. But so I'm working out the details surrounding that. And I think it was yesterday. I was talking with one of my friends and I said, "Girl, I got to let you go. I need to get back to work." And she's like, "It's after 5." It was like 6 something. She's like, "It's after 5. You don't need to be working." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll talk to you tomorrow." But it was that thing of, because I'm not punching in anymore, even
Mm-hmm.
online, am I doing enough? You know, am I don't want to waste this time. I don't want to squander this time. I have time to, for the first time in my life, to not worry about bills. You know, we're not rich, but we live modest, very, very extremely modest lives. So, you know, we're comfortable in the sense that we live modest lives, but I don't have to worry about paying the bills. I don't have to worry about what's going on at work and be stressed. And it's just literally time to focus. And you say you
Yeah.
want this. So how much do you want it, but at the same time still having those boundaries of, okay, purpose driven work is great, but you know, when the hubby gets home, I still need to be able to carve out some time to say hey, and you know, dinner and these other things. So I know that's a very long
No,
response.
it's resonating with me. Everything that you're saying, I totally understand. And when you don't punch that clock, to
Yeah.
your point, you have to know when to turn it off, when to
Yes.
unplug, when to spend family time. Because
Mm-hmm.
although I, much like yourself, made a very difficult decision to focus on what I felt my purpose was,
Mm-hmm.
focus on my own mental health, focus on my
Yes.
own needs. And so that made me, take a step away from what I was accustomed to as a traditional full-time position. I recognize that I still have many of the same behaviors. I still wake up,
Mm.
reach directly for the phone. I
Phone.
still am texting and emailing and messaging, checking email all time of the day and night before I go to bed. As soon as I wake up, my husband calls it my office. I won't disclose where the office is, but I'm sure you feel where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
So as soon as I'm out of the bed, I'm in the office, right? And so then I am just trying to figure out how everyone around me, my family, friends, other responsibilities don't get neglected. And so I have to
Yes.
carve out those times in the day, and it can still be overwhelming, but in a different way, right? Those two different types of
Mm-hmm.
stress, eustress and
Mm-hmm.
distress. It's not distress in the same way that working that traditional 9 to 5 had really burnt me out. So it
Mm-hmm.
is eustress in, like, it's anxiety provoking because it's motivating and I'm excited and I have all of these ideas, but it's still pulling you in one direction over the other. So I understand what you're
Yes.
saying. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and amen. So, welcome, Elegant Granny. I love her. I actually met this
I
beautiful
love her
lady.
name.
I know, Elegant Granny TV. I met her through this. It was a Periscope group, I think. But Elegant Granny TV says, "Michelle, I'm dealing with that now. I'm in the process of retiring from nursing after 35 years to transitioning work on my business full time." Well, first, Elegant Granny, congratulations. Woo, 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 woo. Where's my buzzer? I don't know. Oh, there we are. There we go.
I
That's for
love
you,
it.
Elegant Granny. Congratulations for this tremendous leap of faith that you are taking.
Yes.
That is incredible. And we have, I don't know if you were on the first time last month, Elegant Granny. I think I might have seen you in here, but we have Erinn Boone. She's a therapist, clinician. Oh, yeah, therapist. And we're really just flying by the seat of our pants. So if you have any questions for her, please throw them out there. I wanted to bring her back because the conversation was so rich and full last time, and she agreed graciously. So, we are happy that you are on this new journey, and I'm not the expert. So, until we see any questions, maybe from Elegant Granny, Erinn, what kind of, I know that you said everything about, you overstand and the transitioning and the managing and balancing and seeing, you got the motivation, but what kind of advice would you give Elegant Granny or any person going through a major transition, especially a work related? Let's define that a little more. Work related transition.
So I think it is really important to recognize that you do need that transition time.
Mm-hmm.
Often it takes so long for us to make this decision, to become okay with this decision, and to execute making such what seems like a drastic change, even though we've probably been thinking about it for years at this
Years.
point, right? What does this look like? But
Mm-hmm.
it's important to recognize that it's the same concept of if you were leaving one job and you got promoted, or you were taking a new job somewhere else. In that little middle time, there needs to be vacation time, staycation
Mm.
time, time to reflect, time to decompress before entering this new journey. Because you don't want to hop from one thing into the other. And again, I get it. You want to strike while the iron is hot. But depending on what you've dealt with, especially to be in a profession for 35 years. That's really unheard of in this day and age now, because
Yes.
no one has job stability in that way to be able to stay in a job for that long. So, really, to give your time to reflect on the fact that you made this choice, you made this decision, to relax, to center yourself, to your point, Michelle, do some strategic planning or whatever it looks like before you execute. So I would just say have that date in mind, whether it be a week, whether it be 2 weeks. If I could have taken a month, I would have, because you have to allow yourself that space to just embrace this new journey that you are experiencing. And so that probably would be the sagest advice that I could offer, if sagest is even a word. So the most sage
It's going to be a
advice,
word tonight. The sages. We like it.
the sagest um, advice that I can offer. And honestly, that's clinical, but it's both. It's also personal too. Just
Hmm.
knowing that you need that time for yourself.
Wow. That is good. I wonder, Elegant Granny, would you like to come on screen? Or I know that's kind of intrusive, especially on the spot. If you'd like to come on screen, I'll definitely send you the invite. But if you're just more comfortable typing your questions, that's fine also. But that's an option if you'd like to come on camera. So she also said the change is very drastic. So I'm literally doing what you are saying to do as far as staycation and reflection. That is wonderful. And I truly believe, like, I 100% agree with Erinn, Dr. Erinn. I totally agree with I agree with her. And I did. I took a week. I probably should have taken more because my situation was a little weird and how I left. And then the week that was supposed to be my last week, or it was the week before, my daughter injured her knee. So then I was picking up and not moving, but leaving to go to Cincinnati for a week. And then I came back and she needed surgery. And it was all these moving pieces like, okay, I'm on standby. I don't want to dive too deeply into this new purpose driven work and then have to be uprooted to go help. And it was all these different things. Well, now that's gone, right? But I did take a week to breathe, just
Hmm.
literally to breathe, because often task oriented people, we go from one thing to another to another to another to another, and we don't remember to breathe. And if
Hmm.
you're not remembering to breathe often, you're not enjoying life because you are in a constant, in my opinion, you're in a constant state of tension. Think about when you literally hold your breath, everything kind of tenses up, right? So if you're
Hmm.
constantly going from task to task to task, you're not really enjoying the fullness of life because your task so task driven. So now that's the one thing that I'm really working on. Like, okay, as I shared about yesterday, Michelle, am I doing enough? I've literally been off 1 month and haven't even been stable in the sense that I don't have to travel or anything else. And I'm sitting up judging myself like, have you done enough in a month? It's
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
girl, But one of the tools that I have in my toolbox that aids me against depression is I talk to myself. And I know for some of you who are just so deep and you talk to yourself, that's not sane. It is. I have to talk back to those negative thoughts audibly and say, no, there is no time limit on a journey, right? And even as Elegant Granny said, talking about the journey, and Dr. Boone, Dr. Erinn said, in terms of the journey, that we don't judge ourselves, but also as you're driving, if you're going on a trip, a journey somewhere, as you look along the roads, you're going to see different things. So your
Mm-hmm.
journey today may be different than it was yesterday. Next week might be different than last week. How much you produce tomorrow might differ from next week or 2 weeks from now. Giving yourself the freedom to grow and expand in this journey and learn and observe and breathe so that you can enjoy the journey, right?
Very true. Well said.
So let's see. Okay. Elegant Granny said the change is very drastic. Okay, so she said that. I said that. Nursing comes with dealing with so many wounds and trauma. So it's important for me to de stress. Yes.
Very true.
And Erinn, anytime you want to jump in there, please feel free. If I click on one of the comments and you want to speak to it, please feel free to speak to it. She also said, I'm prepared for bed early, so I'll keep typing. Okay,
I
got it.
don't blame you one bit. I don't blame you one bit.
Welcome, Sherry Amore. This is my sister. She is my oh my gosh, we're not related by blood. We're related by love and relationship.
Chosen
The,
family.
yes,
Hmm.
100%. This is Sherry. Sherry said facts. I'm such a task-driven person and it's exhausting. Sherry,
It
no, I know.
is.
She know, I know. We have had a multitude of conversations about taking a beat, like giving yourself permission to take a beat and don't go to sleep thinking about what you have to do that. And I know I've done that. I've been so guilty of that, going to sleep with what's next to do, the next task, so you don't even have restful sleep.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
It's so draining, right? Being
Yes.
task driven, because here's the thing, the task is not limited to one area. It's not just, oh, these are tasks for my profession or my business. These
Yes.
are household tasks, these are family tasks, these are
Mm-hmm.
friendship or any type of community involvement tasks, these are marital or relationship tasks, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
all of these different things. And notice in there, nowhere did I say tasks for myself,
Right.
right? It's all
Right.
external, because anything that I want to do for me, I honestly, if I don't schedule it in advance, it will not get done. And so
Oh.
I had to have a real like man in the mirror
Mm-hmm.
conversation with myself. So to your point, talking to yourself, right? I had to do that and be intentional about what my goals were for me.
Mm.
I talk to everybody about their goals, but I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
making personal goals for myself. So I had to become
Right.
very intentional with what that looked like for me. I had to start doing mindfulness meditation in the morning, taking 30 minutes out to reflect, be calm. It's okay to lay in the bed for 5 minutes with my eyes closed and not do anything. It's okay to, take time to read, whether that be daily devotionals, scripture, whatever it is that,
Mm-hmm.
resonates with you and brings you peace. It's okay
Yes.
at the end of the day to stop all of the overstimulation with screen
Mm.
time and all of these
Mm-hmm.
things. So it's okay to take those moments. I actually told a client recently, you have to almost steal time for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to drive with no music on and not talking on the phone or not scrolling. It's okay to take those moments, because those are moments where you can check in with yourself, to take a beat and say, okay, am I okay? Can I keep doing this? What do I feel like my heart stop is for the day? And to stick to that. We charge our phones all the time. So if we don't recharge our own batteries, what do you think happens? The same thing that happens to that phone that hasn't been on the charger in 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. Your energy depletes itself. So you have to do self check ins and recharge your battery.
And so that kind of speaks to another, well, it's not really even another topic, but it's how I met Erinn. I met Erinn because, as I shared in the last time Erinn was here, one of my uncles died, and then 2 weeks later my aunt died, and the uncle who died was the uncle who molested me. And I was telling myself, like, Michelle, you're good, you processed all of this, that happened when you were 9, we're talking 40 years ago. You've processed, you openly speak about it, you've exposed the scar so it's dried and it's healed and all these things. But I found myself being short tempered. I found myself being easily agitated. And I told myself, wait a minute, I have to do a pulse check because I want to make sure that I'm not suppressing, that I'm not compartmentalizing. And then one day it's going to pop back up in the most inopportune moment ever. So, what ends up happening when we are pushing forward and the next task and the next task, and we're not processing and we're not taking a beat, often, as Erinn said, just in terms of talking about the phone, we die, right? But also, if you're one of the people that have like existed like I used to, I existed with very little nourishment. And what I mean by that is, you know, I wasn't I wasn't supported as a child. I wasn't told, you're good. I'm proud
Mhm.
of you. I love you. You're
Mhm.
special. I wasn't told these things by my mother or my father. So, coming from that place of lack, I learned to exist and forge ahead on very little. So for many people, you will die out, right? You'll end up with heart disease and all these other things, or you just drop dead of a heart attack or stroke. You'll die because you're just pushing, pushing, pushing and never taking a beat. But for people like me who lived in that existence place, that
Mhm.
space of, I don't need much because I'd never had much. So I
Mhm.
can keep existing, but I'm still not living. And what ends up happening is you become bitter, you become angry, you become
Mhm.
short tempered, you have very little patience. People say the slightest thing and you're just going off the handle. It's You need a beat. You need time to decompress. You need time to step away. You need time to figure it out. You need time to replenish and restore,
Mhm.
because that continuous going, and you have trauma and you never deal with the trauma. And, oh, I'm going to put that back here because no one wants to hear about it. And then eventually it will destroy you. So,
Mhm.
anyway, I just had to, when you were talking about that, I started thinking about, okay, for the people who don't die, like the cell phone battery, for those who
Mhm.
don't die, who are used to very little juice,
That
they
is very
might not
true.
die physically, but emotionally, and as a person, you're not living, you're literally just existing.
Oh yeah. Something is going to be sacrificed. And you know what I call that? You were
Right.
existing in self-preservation mode.
Yes.
You are just doing
Yeah.
whatever it is that you can to make sure that you make it the next
Yeah.
hour, the next
Yes.
day, that you make it overnight. And you can exist in that space, but
Mhm.
to your point, there is very little room for anyone or anything else in that space.
Mhm.
So is it really fulfilling?
Not at
It's,
all.
it's, it's almost like living in a state of crisis all the time. At some point, you have to learn to stabilize and maintain.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out, what do you want your maintenance to look like? Maintenance doesn't mean you have to be stagnant. Maintenance could mean, okay, I feel like I'm finally in a safe place
Mm.
emotionally or physically, spiritually, mentally, financially, whatever that looks like for you. And so now, what is it going to look like for me to venture out and explore other things that I've never either had access to or experienced before? So
Yes.
living in that state of self-preservation, or I should say, to your point, existing in that state of self-preservation, it becomes exhausting. And
Oh
sometimes
my.
it's all you know. You don't even
Yes.
recognize that you're doing it.
Yes. Oh, I could write a book about living there or existing there.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That came as second nature. But let me go back to the comments. Sherry said, my sister, my chosen family. Yes. And she said, I wore out now and contemplating on if I should rest or keep working. Girl, rest.
Listen to your body.
Rest. Um, that was me. Sherry said, great analogy, recharge our battery. Yes, yes, and amen. Yes, that was a great analogy, Dr. Erinn. Nicole says, what do you do when you have a lot of time on your hands to process an overactive mind? That is a great question, Nicole. So, Dr. Erinn, what do you do when you have a lot of time on your hands so that you can process an overactive mind?
So it's really going to be about what you want to do at that time. I think mindfulness is
Hmm.
really important. Mindfulness meditation can come in all different forms, right? And so, me, or I should say for me, one of those things is walking, especially when the weather breaks and we're, in the city that
Hmm.
has summer for 2 months out of the year. But getting up, walking, for some people it's biking, but it's actually getting out into the element because you can focus on a task. You are so focused on your breathing, your surroundings. For some people, it's their pace. For some people, it is just taking in nature around them. For some people, it's hitting a goal, right? My goal is to
Hmm.
do 4 laps around. You become so focused on how your body feels, how your breaths feel, that you kind of don't have time to focus on what's going on up here. But ironically, once you're done, up here feels more mentally clear. And so it is twofold, right? So anything that you find that can bring you a sense of calm, activities are great. For some people, it is taking long showers. For
Hmm.
some people, it is just being still. Some people can meditate in the traditional sense. I cannot, because to your point, my mind is always doing this. I haven't figured out how to zone out sitting still yet, but it is ways to just be able to activate that inner peace,
Mm.
activate that inner calm. And once you do what's called something called total behavior, right? Total behavior is how you feel, your actions, your physiology, and your why is on the tip of my tongue? And I know this, and I say this every day. Your thoughts. Dang,
So
it's
wait,
been
can
a
you repeat
long
those?
day. Yes,
Your actions,
your feelings, your thoughts,
feelings, thoughts,
and your
uh,
physiology.
and physiology. Okay.
So once you tap into one, if you are focused on that one, then it will equate to balancing out in all other areas. And they don't
Hmm.
have to be in any particular order, right? If I tap
Hmm.
into my physical side, if I am walking, that means that I'm clearing my mind. I'm making myself feel better physically. I'm doing something active, which is a different behavior, and it's
Hmm.
making me think in a different way.
Hmm.
So they all work in tandem. So that's tapping into your total behavior. So that's definitely a way that you can utilize your time in a way to focus on the complete self. And I'm sorry,
That's
y'all. It
good.
has been a long day. I promise you.
No need to
For
be
look,
sorry. You're
for the
amazing.
for the most part, I do know what I'm talking about in some areas. Okay, so just
You
bear
know
with
what you're
me.
talking about all around. People understand. And this is person, this amazing creature, this amazing being, she worked a full day today. So believe me, we thank you. We know you know what you're talking about. So next question. Nicole said, what suggestions can you give if you would like to become more sociable, but you have been staying in by yourself for a long time?
Whew. Baby steps. I
Mm,
know it sounds very cliche, but identifying what would bring you joy, what feels like something either you've been planning to try but didn't have the time, or you used to do all the time and life got in the way, and
mm-hmm,
then make a plan and stick to it. Not to the point where you overwhelm yourself, but
mm-hmm,
maybe it is, it depends on, I don't know, Nicole, you tell me, what does being social look like for you?
mm-hmm.
That probably would make the difference as well.
So I have a question, and Nicole, feel free to answer, Erinn, please. But I have a question about that because, and I don't want to make this about me, but for the people,
Mm-mm.
and please share this video out, everyone. Share it out to your community. So if people have any questions, we're still in a pandemic, y'all. If folks
Yeah.
have any questions about their mental health and their journey and where they are and what they're feeling to see if it's normal, they can ask those questions right now. They can pose those questions to Erinn. Please share this out. But Erinn and Nicole, please, expound on what Erinn asked you. But speaking to this, so when I was dealing with depression, I'm automatically, because of life and maybe by design, I don't know, that can be debated, but I'm an introvert. And at one
Hmm.
point I said, I'm going to stop claiming that because it's so narrow and it's so whatever. But really, I'm an introvert. I just that resolve that within myself. What can you do if you are a loved one of someone dealing with depression? Because for me, depression is not that I can't go to work because I was raising my daughter and massively, clinically, chronically depressed.
Hmm.
And I was still going to work. I had some hard days where I couldn't get out of bed, but I knew that if I didn't work, she wouldn't eat. So I got out of bed. But for me, the extras, I had friends who would literally be calling me for weeks on end or would show up and I'd leave them outside and I would be inside. I just could not, I had no energy to give to anyone else. I had to give it to my daughter, right? Because I was a single mom. So she had no other options. But for extra folks, people who love me, friendships, I would literally just be depleted because I was
Hmm.
walking around depressed every day. What advice would you give the loved one watching that person, watching me back
Hmm.
then? I'm not that person anymore, guys. But I was in a dark state for a very long period of time. And my friend, well, one friend in particular, she cracks the joke about how I never left her outside. She's like, I'm the only one of our friends that you never left outside. And she's right because I would know they're out there. They'd call for weeks and I wouldn't answer. And then
Hmm.
eventually I'm just going to her house and I'd know they're out there and just leave them. So, what
Hmm.
advice would you give to that person watching me, watching a loved one that you know is in a deep darkness and they're losing their zest for life? What should they do?
I think it's important to have patience with loved ones, friends, family, whomever may be experiencing this, because it is not that individuals battling with anxiety, depressive symptoms, or any other mental health concern, it's not that they want to be in this place, right? It
Mm-hmm.
feels very overwhelming. It feels for some like quicksand, and sometimes they just kind of sink because it's easier to sink than to find the energy to fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So patience is going to be incredibly important. It's okay to check in, but don't always expect a response. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to say, hey, I'm just thinking about you. Let me know if you need anything. But then you have to give this person the room, right?
Yeah.
You can be consistent with those check-ins because that lets that person know that you do genuinely care. But
Mm-hmm.
it is really hard to watch someone that you've seen be this certain way almost feel like they're spiraling because you look up and you feel like this isn't the person that I know.
Yeah.
So just don't overwhelm them and
Yeah.
try really hard not to push what your opinion is on them at that time. Because when eventually, at some point, if they do feel that they want to open up, I'm not going to open up to someone that I feel like is going to judge me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, it is one thing if, we're saying, hey, I've been trying to get in touch with you for 2 weeks. I don't even know what's going on over there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I get that piece of it. But
Mm-hmm.
even if you have to say something to them, if you can just text a response to let me know that you're okay. If that
Yeah.
person does that, then leave it at that. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
doorway to open up a conversation necessarily if they are not ready, because they are really experiencing an internal battle that is hard enough to fight. And they just need to know that they have the support behind them. So that's
I
probably, what I would offer.
I am so glad. I think that was amazing and spot on advice because I remember those feelings. Of course, I do. I was living depressed for 18 years, actually longer, but about 18 to 20 years. So
Hmm.
I remember that darkness and adding on to the darkness of just conjuring up the strength to live one more minute. It seemed insurmountable, but now adding on your agenda or your care or concern or
Hmm.
questions or judgments about how I'm living my life and what decisions I make, it would have been the tipping point for me. So I would remove myself. I would literally
Hmm.
unplug.
Yeah.
And I mean, for weeks at a time. And yeah, I'm glad you ended it with that because often we do think that we're doing the right thing and I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And it's overwhelming enough for the person
Hmm.
to be managing depression.
Yeah.
So
And
that's great.
it can make that person feel like this is just another thing that I'm failing, or another
Yes,
person that I'm disappointing. Or so
yes.
I understand that your intention and your heart is in the right place,
Hmm.
but it isn't always received the way that it's intended. And so
Yeah.
you have to allow the space for that. And keep in mind, you may not, I won't say you don't, or
Hmm.
people don't, but people may not understand what you're experiencing. And
Yeah.
so as a result, it makes them feel helpless on the
Mm.
outside because they can't offer you that support or that life vest or that whatever to help pull you out of it. And so I heard a quote. It said that comprehension is not a requisite of cooperation, right? And
Oh, wow.
so
Okay.
in this, I would venture to link that by saying you don't have to understand what a person is going through to offer them the support that they need.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. That's
They
really
may
good.
need you to just be there, just show up, just know if I need to call them or reach out, they're at least accessible or available. And sometimes that's enough.
Yeah. That is really good. So Elegant Granny said, finally, someone who can't be still while meditating like me. She was speaking to your point earlier
Not
about,
at all.
oh, wow. And I typed in total behavior, the definition, your actions, your feelings, your thoughts, and physiology. Hopefully, I spelled that right. Okay, Nicole said, awesome. And Nicole also said, so this individual is not social, but needs to get, she said put, but I think she meant out, but needs to get out more. So I think that kind of almost speaks to, but we were talking about depression. So let's just
Hmm.
remove depression. We don't want to move, we don't want to give anyone any diagnosis
Hmm.
without you seeing the person. So let's just say a person that's becoming a hermit, or you see, wait a minute. And Nicole, I don't know if this person was, they used to be social and now they've kind of withdrawn, or have they always just been kind of antisocial? But speaking generally, I guess, Erinn, do you have any advice if you're watching someone that should be more social, they need to get out more? What can you do from a friend perspective, from a parental perspective, or your spouse is now kind of withdrawing from the world?
Hmm. I mean, I think to your point, it is relative to whatever their specific situation is, because it is very different for a person who used to be very social to
Mhm.
now, all of a sudden begins to isolate, right? What are the factors? What are the things that have happened to them? Have there been any traumas? Is it
Mhm.
because of this pandemic? Is
And
it
she just said
because
that the
they're
pandemic has played a role. Okay, good.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I get that because there are, again, we talked about this last time. There are all types of adjustment disorders that cause us to feel more anxious, right?
Hmm.
For the longest time, I didn't want to go anywhere either, right? I mean, I was just like, okay, I have to go to the store, but if I don't have to go to the store, I'm not really driving. I don't need to get gas. And so I actually said I miss shelter in place, right? Because
Yeah.
I didn't have to be bothered if I didn't
Yeah.
want to. So, but it really depends if you are speaking from a perspective that this person has said to you, I need to get out more. I just don't know where to start, or I'm feeling this way and that's what's keeping me from getting out? Or are you on the outside looking in as a concerned party saying, wow, you need to get out more because this isn't good for you? It's
Mm-hmm.
really up to that person to decide where their comfort level is and if they consider it to be a concern or an issue or not, because we can't want something more for other people if they don't want it for themselves. And we
Yes.
also have to caution ourselves that if it's not a problem for them, we can't make it a problem.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it really just depends on what that person wants to do specifically. If they're asking for help, then of course, like, let's figure out, what do you like to do? I'll go with you, offering to handhold and support them through that. But if they're okay with it, then we have to be real careful about, and I'm not saying that you're doing this at all, Nicole, but about projecting what we feel like someone else ought to be doing onto them.
Yeah. Yeah. Relationships are hard.
They really, really, really are. And the pandemic has not helped, not one bit. It's like people have just kind of isolated themselves, and you have the people that couldn't wait to get back out, and then you
Yeah.
have the people who kind of just stewed in their own hate and their own understanding, and when they did get back out, all human decency went out of the window. And then you
Girl.
do have those people that are so overly cautious that it does almost feel like they're handicapped, because at this
Mm-hmm.
point I'm more scared to go out than I am to be in. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of different factors at play.
Okay. Nicole says she lost sound. Can you all still hear us? I think we're good. Let me go to Facebook. I'm going to just test this out on. Can everyone else still hear us? Yeah, it looks like we're good on Facebook. I don't know, Nicole, if there's something on your end, but according to Facebook, we're fine. So, Erin, can you still? Okay, good. Thank you, Elegant Granny. Elegant Granny can still hear. Okay, Nicole is back with sound. Perfect. Any other questions? Elegant Granny, you have any questions? Sherry, you have any questions? Anyone else who's out there who's a little shy and may not want to speak, just go ahead and type your questions in. But also, if you'd like to be brought on screen, we have the capability to bring you on screen. You can ask your question live in person, and we can see your beautiful faces. So, Erin, that was all really, really good, sound, sage advice. So, a quick question for individuals who are out there watching, and we're going to stick kind of to the pandemic. So, individuals, because we have a lot of people who've experienced trauma, various trauma related incidences, not just sexual trauma or, physical abuse, but there's all types of traumas. If your husband left you suddenly, that's a traumatic event.
Hmm.
The loss of a loved one, the pandemic took a lot of people. How would you say, what is the first step in addressing trauma, especially with trauma that's been dormant for a while, but the pandemic started to shine a light on it because you had all the time by yourself, as we've been sharing about being alone. Many people have been alone, and now all these childhood traumas, teenage traumas, early life, whatever. What is the first step in addressing it and actually starting the process to healing?
Oh, that's a loaded question,
I know.
Michelle.
I know.
So trauma can be really hard because sometimes we can't always identify it, right?
Mhm.
Especially if you have become accustomed to living with it. So
Mhm.
to your point that you made earlier, if you, and I'm just using this as an example, it is
Mhm.
not limited to this at all, but
Mhm.
if you find yourself feeling a little bit more irritable, agitated, you find yourself being short with other people, if you are having any type of sleep disturbance, if you feel like, really not motivated to deal with things, or you're able to
Mm.
recognize that certain things trigger you, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just full disclosure, I had a period after a really bad relationship, and that's a conversation for another day, right? But where I was experiencing some depressive symptoms, and so I didn't realize it, right? But everyone around me noticed. And these
Wow.
are loved ones that you're sleeping more. You know, you used to want to get out more, to Nicole's point. Now you don't want to get out as much. And I remember laying on the couch, and it just stuck with me that, like, I've been on this couch for 2 days.
Mm.
All I have been watching, and this is not to trivialize or make light, this was really my experience. All I wanted to watch was back-to-back episodes of Grey's Anatomy, and I just wanted to cry, right?
Oh, wow.
And so
Mm.
I'm not recognizing that the reason that I need to cry is because it's stuff bubbling up out of me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
needed to give myself permission to cry, so I needed an excuse.
Mm.
So I needed to watch something that I knew would have me in my emotions so that I had an excuse to cry and get those feelings
Wow.
out. Not even recognizing
Wow.
that this was necessary for me. And so obviously at the time, I don't know what's going on. I'm just feeling like
Mm-hmm.
I'm an emotional wreck. But when I began to do my work and face my issues and face what my triggers look like, I was able to recognize it wasn't about that at all. It was about the fact that I needed to give myself permission to feel these feelings.
Girl.
So, knowing that when you experience trauma, it can come out in different ways, especially if we push it down, it comes out at the damnedest time. And
Yes.
recognizing that there is someone that you can talk to where you do not have to feel ashamed, or you don't have to, because mind you, shame is a learned behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to feel ashamed of what you've been through, right? You can actually make that step, but making the step is the hardest part, because if
Yeah.
we talk about it, it makes it real. And then
Yeah.
what do we do with it? So it's really a loaded question, because healing, I just want everyone to know, I wish I could say that as soon as you address your trauma, the healing starts right then, right?
Mm. Mm-mm.
It
Mm-mm.
doesn't. It is an entire process. But what I can guarantee is that if you commit to that, and you are committing with someone that you feel comfortable and safe with in addressing those concerns, if you allow that person to guide you through, whether it be faith based counseling, clinical
Mm-hmm.
counseling, talk therapy, whether it's weekly, bi weekly, whatever, right? As long as you commit to that process and allow the person to help support you through it, you will get to healing. But
Yeah.
for some, it's a longer journey than others, and that's okay. There's no time frame on it.
It is definitely a process. And just speaking to something you said, um, anybody that knows me knows I'm a Jesus freak. I love Jesus. I love the Word. I love God. I am a Christian. And I will say this with full, complete authority. And when I finish it, I'm going to end it with I said what I said. Okay. Erinn said, in terms of speaking with someone whom you trust and, you can go through whatever. And she said spiritual counseling. What I will add to that, because I've been through the concept of church and, you know, finding our power and our strength through God and going to church and putting everything under the blood of Jesus. I believe in the power of the blood of Jesus. I believe in the power of the name of Jesus. And I also
Hmm.
believe that if you need help, you seek help.
Hmm.
And if you are seeking help, preferably they can be a spiritual person, they can be a pastor who is also a therapist, who is also a clinician, but they need something in addition to the word.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I say that, I know church folk, if you watch this, what? They ain't nothing more powerful than the word. What's she saying? See these Christians that go against the word and God in this new age. There is nothing new age about me, okay? I don't believe in the new age, the universe. I believe in giving honor and praise and glory to God, and Jesus. And I also know the power of a professional,
Hmm.
seeking professional help. So the pastor can be great. Make sure he's licensed. Make sure he's a clinician. He is a clinician. He has something other than
Mhm.
just I've been pastor in this church for 20 years, because that's good. But sometimes
Mhm.
we need experts, because if I had a foot issue, I am not going to go to a teacher with my foot issue. I'm just not. I'm going
Mhm.
to a podiatrist. Okay. If I have cancer, I'm not just going to church to get a scripture. I'm going to a doctor. So I'm just saying, I said what I said. I'm
She
gonna leave
said
that
what she
alone.
said.
I'm gonna leave it right there. Because I was
And
in church for many
yeah.
years and still bound. And I was in church for many years and still suicidal. And I was in church decreeing the blood of Jesus. Okay. At
Mhm.
the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow, every tongue confess. I can quote some. I was in church fasting and praying and praising worship in the house with my child, getting up at 5 and 6 in the morning, designating time and appointing time to God. And I still was suicidal, and I still took 100 sleeping pills and physically flatlined. And I was going to church. So that's just a little something. Now you can keep going to church, and you need a therapist. You need
You
someone. You need
you
someone who is an expert in that field. I'm sorry.
No, I totally understand where you are coming from and
Mhm,
agreed. You
mhm.
can have both,
Yes.
or if you're able to find, to your point, a
Mhm.
faith-based clinician, and that is
Yes.
what resonates with you, and that is
Mhm,
what works for you. I
mhm,
know plenty of clinicians who start session with prayer, end session with prayer, right?
mhm.
So it's whatever you feel connected to, but know that there is a professional out there. And if the first time you meet with someone, if it doesn't click, then you ask to consult with someone else. You go back to
Yes.
the drawing board, right? But it's in you for a reason to feel like I want to talk about this. I don't want to talk to my good girlfriend about this.
Yes.
I don't want to talk to my sister or my husband or my wife, my partner, whoever, right?
Mhm. Or my mother.
Or
Hmm.
your mother. But you
Hmm.
want to feel like you can get it out without judgment and in a
Hmm.
place where you can control your own narrative without worrying about anyone else's opinion.
Yes, that is so good. Before we end, Elegant Granny said, vicarious trauma has been a puzzle for me. What would you suggest we do to de stress from it other than recognize I am not the one experiencing that particular trauma?
Yeah, vicarious trauma is real because, again, much like myself, you're in the helping profession where you give a lot of your energy over, or you were encountering a lot of different energies and traumas and health concerns and whatever these issues are, right? And so, as a result, again, checking in with yourself. If you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are experiencing compassion fatigue, if you are
Mhm.
experiencing empathy burnout, right? That's
Right.
real. And so I would always, again, take that moment to recognize what self care looks like for you. Most companies do have EAP programs where even if you just reach out to them to talk to someone one or two times, right? But just recognizing that you deserve to be able to offload everything that was put on you in that
Mm.
particular day, week, month, or years. And it is something that is very real. So you do have to protect your peace in that way.
That is really good. I love that. Compassion, fatigue, and empathy burnout, because that is real, especially
Hmm.
because we love people, right? Those individuals who hold those sacred spaces in our lives. We
Yeah,
we want to help them and rescue them, and we don't want them to crash and burn. So we're taking on their experiences as if it's our own. So that is really, really good. Elegant Granny says healing is a continual process, and that was about our
absolutely.
conversation before. Yes, yes, Elegant Granny. She also said, Michelle, it's very important people realize that specialists are important. If we pay attention, Jesus's disciples were specialists in their respective fields. Girl, can you
You better
say
say
that
that word.
again? They were not just any Joe Blows. Amen. Amen. It is so. It is true. You are right. Yes. Yes. And that is very important because often we get so churched that we go to church and we learn the word and all these things. I learned the word. I had it. I thought it was hidden in my heart. I was doing all the things, as they say, all the things. I was praying and praising and all the things and showing up and all that stuff, but I needed something more than that. Now, what helped me? I didn't go to a therapist. I just have to share that with you. But I was seeing my primary care physician, and
Mm-hmm.
he did something that no one had ever done for me. He told me, here's my phone number. If you ever have any thoughts of suicide, I don't care. And he gave me his home number. I don't care day or
Mm-hmm.
night. This was 2002. Call me. Just him, who he didn't gain anything from me. I mean, yeah, there was a little $20 copay, but seriously, call you in
Yeah.
the middle of the night? No. He took an interest, and I wasn't his friend, I wasn't his girlfriend, I wasn't his child, none of that. And it really started, well, it kind of added fuel to the process that was already ignited after I came back from death. But for me, as much as I knew the word, I wasn't speaking it, which is why I shared earlier about talking to myself, talking to
Mm-hmm.
those thoughts, because I found the power in the word through speaking it and casting down the thoughts. But then also, in addition to that, I had to start actually owning my truth,
Mm-hmm.
owning my
Mm-hmm.
story, call a thing a thing. I used
Mm-hmm.
to say, my father sexually assaulted me. My father raped me. Like, and the first time I said that, it was in a conversation with my daughter, and she's like, Mommy, do you know that's the first time you ever called it rape? And I'm like, no, can't
Mm-hmm.
be, because that's what he was
Mm-hmm.
doing. Like, what? But sexual assault, those two
Mm-hmm.
words are more palatable to people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Oh, they can hear you say sexual assault because that could mean, oh, somebody touched you on the butt, or they gave you a hug you didn't want, or whatever. But rape, that's an ugly word. Well, how much more was the act that I had to endow? Why didn't I feel worthy enough to own my own truth? Like, I'm trying to protect other people from offending other people, but I was the one that was offended. Like, I
And
mean,
you were what? Protecting that trauma.
girl, if you don't stop.
And I'm not
Look,
making light of that, just for your audience. Michelle knows exactly what, because that
oh
was
my
such a powerful
God.
blow to her the first time she heard that. So,
And just speaking to what Erinn said a few minutes ago, like, talking about your company. Well, most companies, if you're working, you have a company, they have an EAP, Employee Assistance Program. That's how I met Erinn, because around the time of my uncle and my aunt dying, within 2 weeks of each other, and I saw myself being, whoo, I was a firecracker. Like, I sent this email, and Erinn, I have to send you that email. Did I ever show you that email that I
mm-mm.
sent to my old supervisor? Oh, I sent her this email because she asked the question, and I was like, I'm finding it hard to put this. What was I saying? I was saying something like, I'm finding it hard to not think about the fact that black people are dying in the streets. And this is a white woman I'm sending this email to. I mean, that email was like, pow, pow, pow. Before you get up, let me hit you again. And it was, when I read it, I was like, oh, yeah, I might need to reach out to someone because, whew,
I might need a couple
okay,
days off.
I might need to take a beat. Like, and so the importance of, as I said before, I didn't see a therapist. I hadn't seen one. Erinn was, well, that's a whole nother story. But I did reach out to Erinn through our EAP, and I had 5 sessions, and they were
Hmm.
absolutely free because the company offered EAP. So that's just one of those resources for you all to remember that you probably have if you're working for a different company that is not your own. So, Erinn, it is 8:04. If no other questions are if the audience doesn't have any other questions, we will be wrapping up. We will give you a minute or so. But Erinn, would you like to leave us with any jewels or any resources or anything? Erinn is actually, we didn't share that. Erinn, who do you work with for? Can you share
So
that
the
with the audience?
Of course, the practice that I work with is mindful wellness counseling, and we service clients in Indiana and Illinois. Well, I feel like it's Northwest Indiana, but it may be further than that. I was
Okay.
reminded yesterday that we also service clients out of Nevada, so we
Oh,
are expanding in that way. And right now, we are doing primarily telehealth, but we also offer in-person services depending on the schedule and the clinician that you are seeing if they are offering in-person services at that time. And so I believe that right now we are accepting new clients. Again, it just depends on which clinicians. Some clinicians have more or less availability than others. But again, even if there is a small wait, right? If someone tells you 1 to 2 weeks, when you think about that in comparison to how long you may have been dealing with what you are dealing with, 1 or 2 weeks hopefully will not deter you from still
hmm,
making that step. 1 or 2 weeks is a small amount of time, a very short amount of time in comparison to what you may have been experiencing for years. So don't talk yourself out of it if you hear that there is a short wait list.
okay,
Explore
that's
other
real good.
options, even. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I would definitely recommend that. And Michelle, really quickly to your point, it doesn't always have to be limited to a therapist, right? Your PCP, any type of family medicine doctor, any doctor that you feel comfortable starting the conversation with, they can offer referrals. They may be
Hmm.
able to give you some insight. So please, just if it feels like it's coming up for you, if the first person you're able to make an appointment with is your PCP, talk to your PCP about what you're experiencing.
Wow.
Okay.
Before you guys go, and Erin, I hope this is a short answer. I don't know why this just came up for me. Can you give the audience, can you give them an answer on the first step to saying goodbye? And what that means, my question is saying goodbye to a loved one because of death, saying goodbye to a relationship that no longer suits either one of you, saying goodbye to a job. What is the first step in how to do that? And I know I put you on the spot. That's a deep,
You
could be
did.
another loaded question. I'm sorry.
That
It just bubbled up in me
that
like,
is
I don't even
what
know why.
we call doorknob comments, right? So when it's right at the very end and it's like, oh, one more thing, and it's like, no, you know that that was heavier than 30 seconds.
Oh.
So the first thing that comes to mind is being at peace,
Mhm.
but that feels like the short answer because the longer answer is what does it take to get to being at peace with it?
Yes.
Do you know that this goodbye is going to be long term? Because I was even thinking about this the other day. If you think back on your life, people that are no longer in your life for various reasons, when you said goodbye to them that last time, you may not have even known that was going to be the last time.
Yeah.
So, what does your peace with that person or that situation look like in an effort for you to really decide what goodbye means?
Hmm.
That's the most I can give to that in 30 seconds.
Okay.
But you are going to have me thinking about that, right? I feel like you already have an idea for you what it means as well. So that just means we have to do like a part three.
Did you just offer to come back again? Did she? Did y'all? I don't have anybody in here with me. Did somebody just hear me? Is this like a monthly thing? Like, what's going on? Did I hallucinate that? Is anyone still out there watching? Did you guys hear her offer to come back for a third session? Did y'all hear that, or am I hallucinating?
Not at
Do I
all.
need do I need more sessions with Erinn because now I'm hearing voices? And that's not to play down anybody with a diagnosis who is actually hearing voices. Okay, I'm not making light of that. Okay, so Nicole, I got an amen from the amen corner. Nicole said yes, she heard it too. Thank you, Nicole, for that. I'm not hallucinating. Okay, so we'll find another date since the therapist, the doctor threw that out there. We'll find another date for September. That is awesome. Oh, Elegant Granny said yes, and please fix it so I can set my reminder on YouTube. Yes, okay, perfect. As soon as probably what's today, Wednesday. Erinn, you think maybe by next Wednesday we'll have a date?
Yeah, we can come up with a date.
Perfect. We will have a date
Absolutely.
set for you guys for September by next Wednesday, and I'll create a new flyer with the date and everything. And Elegant Granny, I will set a reminder to remind you. I'll actually tag you in the post on Facebook. So thank you. Let's see. Everyone said thank you. Sherry said thank
Thank
you,
you,
ladies.
ladies.
Elegant Granny said this was very enjoyable session before I went to bed. Thank you. Thank you and good night, Elegant Granny. So glad you were here. Nicole said yes. Oh, yeah, she did. Wait, that's not Nicole. That's Nicole. No problem. And Sherry said, ooh, we. Yes. I am loving you. Sherry already know I am eating this up. Okay. So perfect. Thank you once again. Thank you all of Sherry said I was not ready for that question, Shell. Why you asked that? Oh, the question. Ah. So that'll be we will talk more about that. Erinn will have a month to really
Yeah,
see
let
where
me give
she
that some
stands.
thought.
And that'll be the topic for September's talk. Saying how to say goodbye or something like that. I'll come up with something. But you ain't gotta say goodbye, but you gotta get the out of here. No, I'm just joking, y'all. It'll be something about goodbye. So we'll talk about that in September, how to say goodbye and the tools that we need to prepare us for the goodbye. Because I was about to add because you said you thought I had something. I did have something, Erinn, but I'll save that for September.
Yes, and
So
please
thank you.
email that to me too so that I can
Yes.
let that marinate.
Yes, I absolutely will. So thank you, Sherry, Elegant Granny, Nicole, and all of the other viewers, the replay viewers. We appreciate you being here. We hope that you found some kind of benefit from this live session with Dr. Boone. I keep putting that in the atmosphere.
You are. I'm
And
going to claim that. I
yeah,
receive it.
you better jump on it, girl. But no, we really hope that this was helpful for you. And if you have any additional questions, put them in the comments, and I can even send those over to Erinn. She can possibly, when she has time, whenever
Hmm.
that is, because she is one busy soul. But she will probably be able to get back to you. Just know that the response time will be a little extended. But we appreciate each and every one of you for viewing. We hope that you are well. Seriously. We hope that you are well and not just pretending to be. Okay. If you need help, reach out for help. You can reach out to Erinn's practice. Erinn, we thank you. We thank you for part 2. We look forward to a part 3. As
Thank
always, you are
you.
amazing and incredible. I have a great time talking with you and learning from you and gleaning from you. You are amazing, and we appreciate and welcome you back in September.
Everything that you just said, Michelle, and more. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And guys, if you need a good therapist, as she said, it might be a little bit of a wait, but reach out to Erinn Wellness. I always get it wrong. Please tell me what it's
The
called again.
the website is mindful wellness, all one word, dot group. So mindful wellness dot group.
Mindfulwellness.group. Let me just type that in here now. So www.mindfulwellness.group. It's
Yep,
GROUP, not GRP, right?
correct. GROUP.
Okay, www.mindfulwellness.group. Okay, so thank you all. Have a wonderful evening. And as I try to remember to end, if you don't have the life you desire, you go out there and you create it. And when it's secured, you reach back, you reach down, and teach someone else how to create the life they desire. So next time, bye, y'all. Bye, Erinn. Thank you so much. Let me end the
Bye.